Political analyst Michael Geoghegan joins me now to delve into this a little bit further as we now head into 2020, Michael. A big agenda for the Liberals ahead of them in a minority government, climate change being, of course, top of mind. So talk to me about what that's going to be at top of their agenda. How are they going to balance things? Because on the one hand, they do have that promise on climate change, but on the other hand, they also have to work with the Western provinces, the provinces as a whole, to ensure that they're meeting their needs as well.
Well, exactly. And, in terms of Alberta and the oil sands, you also, not only is that a major economic driver for Alberta, that's a major economic driver for Canada. So if we're going to afford, to have decent healthcare, education, social services, et cetera, we still are very dependent on an oil-based economy. So that's a real interesting balancing act. So, and plus we also have substantial foreign investment, including from China, in our oil sands projects now. And so there is a lot to balance off, plus the fact that, no matter what we do as Canada, if China isn't doing it, if the United States isn't doing it, if India isn't doing it,
right,
it's not going to make a difference. So it is a real challenge and a real balancing act. And the fact that it's a minority government only kind of highlights that balancing act.
Yeah, it certainly does. And of course, environmentalists are going to be coming knocking on their door. We're probably going to see more protests as well when we're talking about this oil sands project, saying that it's not keeping in within the commitment. So really putting the Liberals between a rock and a hard place here.
Well, exactly. The sweet spot for the Liberals is when, they've got people on the right and people on the left agreeing with them. The nightmare scenario is when they have people on the right and people on the left disagreeing with them, and they're caught out in the middle. So, so in terms of this, certainly Alberta is definitely wanting a pipeline to water so that they're not having to sell their oil at a loss to the United States.
Right.
And at the same time, there is this ongoing economic investment in the oil sands. But at the same time, of course, hey, what are we doing to transition from a carbon economy? And a few years, Saskatchewan, Ontario, New Brunswick, they've talked about investing in small-scale nuclear reactors so that some of our energy production is not coming from burning fossil fuels.
Right.
But of course, that comes with other problems. So there's a lot of things in the mix here. It's
going to be a very busy 2020. But as you mentioned, they are a minority government, but they're also in a very interesting position when we look at the Conservatives. The Conservatives are in a very interesting position right now, really essentially, Michael, trying to rebuild themselves, starting with a new leader, but also creating a new mandate and focus for the party. So what's in store for them next year?
Well, they've pushed. I think they've pushed back their convention to November of 2020. There's a lot of different names being batted about. Poliver, Rona Ambrose, others. I think the political sweet spot for the Conservatives is not focusing on social conservatism, because that did not go over well with the electorate. But at the same time, looking at economic populism, things like, hey, even with the adjustments that the Liberal government has recently announced, once they're fully implemented, you start making more than $15,000 a year, you're going to start paying income taxes on that. That's less than half the minimum wage.
Right.
So I think there's some real room for the Conservatives to provide real tax relief to low and middle income Canadians and have that as a populist message, because I think that's what Canadians are looking around and saying, hey, all the tax burden is falling on me. It's not falling on big corporations. It's not falling on the wealthy.
Right.
What do you do to change that? And I think that kind of messaging could really resonate. The other issue they have to deal with, though, is Conservatives have had a kind of reflex opposition to any kind of trade union activity. But unfortunately, as the economics makes clear, the weaker the private sector union movement is, the weaker wages are. And what Canadians are grappling with right now is that we're both overtaxed and underpaid. And so there might need to be some adjustment for both the Liberals and the Conservatives in their thinking around private sector unions, because they can be a real ally in terms of lifting the working and the middle class up to the level that we took for granted in the 1970s and the 1980s.
Yeah, certainly. It's, I think for both parties, it is going to be quite an interesting year. A lot of Canadians are keen to keep a close on. Not one for an election, certainly. I don't think either party is even close for that, especially Conservatives. But we'll see how things unfold. Michael Geoghegan, always great chatting with you. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be talking again soon, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.